In this video, I'm going to show you how to change your alternator on your Pontiac Grand Prix. This covers the 3800 series engine, and in fact will cover any other car with a 3800 series 3 engine as well. And this is all right now on Nexus Auto. So, what do you need to get this job done? Well, not too much. You got your ratchet, a couple wrenches, 10mm wrench. You'll need that for sure. And the 15mm wrench you may or may not need, because you can alternate that with a 15mm deep socket. So either or of those. A 15mm shallow socket. A 11mm. Now the 11mm you'll only need if you have a strut tower bar, and I'll show you that in a bit, but that's the only time you'll need that. A 13mm and a 10mm. Okay, so first, just to make your life a little bit easier, and also because you kind of need to do it, let's take off the engine cover first. So to do that, you just have to grab your oil filler here and turn it counterclockwise. Pull that off. Just lift this right off. Oops. Put that aside. And just to prevent any type of contaminants or anything from getting in, make sure to put this back on. Close up. So next up, you have to take off your negative battery terminal, that one right there, and you have to do that with a 10mm, either a wrench or a ratchet. I'm just going to use a 10mm socket here. I'm just going to loosen that right out. Pull that off and just put it aside. Make sure it doesn't get to a spot where it can kind of move back over and retouch or anything like that. You definitely don't want that to happen. Now I'm going to give you two scenarios here. Now you got to take off the coolant reservoir and get that out of the way so you can get to the tensioner very easily. It's very easy to take off that reservoir. However, you'll notice I have a strut tower bar there. So if you don't have a strut tower bar, which is, unless you've put one in, you won't have one. Then you just go in. These are two 10mm nuts here, and they're very thin nuts. They're not heavy duty in any way. They should be on no more than hand tight, really. You just take these two off, and then you just lift this right up, and you could just move it aside. And that's it. However, because I also have the strut tower bar, I can either take the strut tower bar off or take off the fuse box. Well, not take off, just take it off and loosen it and move it aside. Because my strut tower bar is torque to specifications, I don't want to take that out. Instead, I'm just going to do the fuse box. Lift that off and aside. And we're now going to pull off our coolant reservoir. Simple and easy. One. Two. Now again, normally you would just then take this, kind of pull it just a little bit this way to clear it from the back of the firewall here and lift out. In this case here, you lift up. I gotta pull it around and out, and then we'll push that right aside over here. If you're gonna lay it down, be careful of any coolants inside. You don't want it to spill and leak out everywhere. Now we're going to go after the tensioner, which is right there. Alternator, right below is the tensioner. You'll see that's a 15mm bolt there. So all that is you're going to take your ratchet. You can use a wrench, but I find you get better leverage off a ratchet. So we're going to put that right there. And you're just going to push forward and pull the belt aside and then release. Take your ratchet off and you just put the belt down. Don't take it off anywhere else. Don't take it off any of the water pump, the AC, anything like that. The point is just to release the tension and then lift the belt off of here and put it down on the side. Try and leave it as intact as possible. That's just to make your life a little bit easy afterwards. All right, so now we just got to pull off the plug and the main power wire. To pull off the plug is a little clip over here. You just lift off the clip and pull out. And that comes right out, nice and easy. The power over here is a boot. You have to lift the boot and pull it aside. That should be a 13 millimeter. I think they changed it over some of the years. I don't think it's always been consistently 13 millimeter, but don't quote me on that. We're just going to go ahead and put that on there. Okay. Just pull that right off. Careful not to drop it. You don't want that annoyance. Well, I don't think it's too far for it to go from there, but still. Put that up there and then just pull the wire right off and you're all clear there. Alright, so next up, we got to take off this bracket. So really all that's left here, the alternator is very simple on here, very simply. So it's just this bracket over here. Take this bracket off and then there's a couple bolts here and one down here. So it's a 10 millimeter over here, and these should all be 15 millimeters. So we're just going to take, now getting a socket in here may be a little tricky, so I'm just going to use a 10 millimeter wrench. Hopefully I didn't give it too much issues. Oh, good. And again, careful not to drop it, because ain't no one got time for that. Right? Okay, get that out. And that's what you see, just so you see what it looks like. And now we're going to take that top one off there. Oh, beside my 13 on there. There we go. Maybe blocking him, switch hands there. Yeah. Okay, that bracket should now lift right off. Okay, so now because this is a double threaded bolt here, it's also quite deep, so just the socket won't go, so we'll use a wrench on that one. And also if you look behind, right there, that's the other 15 millimeter and along with one here. So it's 1, 2, 3. So two of them I'll use the socket on. And one of them I'll use this one here, which I'll do right now. Use the wrench. Hopefully it doesn't give us too much problems. Believe it or not, it's my original alternator, so never been moved, never been taken off. And seen some tough times. Let's see if you can go in here. Just so you see what you're dealing with there. Now I'm going to attack this one here, because what I'll do after is I'm just going to grab my ratcheting wrench after. So let's go with these here. because it's getting close to the tensioner, I'm going to get my ratcheting wrench now. Or again, if you're not, you just use a regular wrench. Use whatever tools you have at your disposal. Alright, let's finish this one up here. Oh, the tensioner's still in the way. Alright, we'll just... Now before I get that one all the way out, so I'm going to go here. Oh, that was close. For me, I thought I wouldn't be able to get that out just like that. But just so you can see what you're dealing with there. And I think, well, that one's almost out. Alright. So first, so you can see what bolt you're dealing with there. And there is your alternator. We've got our shiny new alternator. Now we're going to put that right in. So we're just going to line that up. Make sure everything lines up correctly. Now, when you're installing everything, it does tighten up to the main bolts, all tighten to 37 foot-pounds. Those three, 1, 2, 3. However, first you're just going to kind of get them in hand tight first. And then there's actually is an order to tighten these up. But first things first, we just get them to kind of like hand tight. Okay, so the idea here now is, I've already put the bolts in just to save a little time. 1, 2, 3. You tighten them to hand tight. And then after they're hand tight, you'll actually go to 37 foot-pounds is the exact torque specifications if that's what you should be going to. But first, you just kind of hand tight them all. So I've lined them up already. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and I also decided to get rid of the, because not a lot of room to work with the wrench there, so I got a 15mm deep socket. Normally, that will work very well for you, except because I'm a strut tower bar, I can't get socket in just yet. So I'm going to tighten it a little bit with a wrench, just to get it down a bit. You can see that's like a crawl pace. We're good now, and we're there. Good. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to switch over to the shallow, regular 15mm to do this last one over here. Okay, so now I'm almost done hand tightening this last one here. So the idea will be, once complete, is that the way you tighten these is you tighten this one down here first at 37 foot-pounds, and that one at 37, and then that one at 37. And it should be in that order. Give me some trouble here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it to 37 right now. Use your torque wrench. You should have one. Switch back over to deep. And last one here. Okay. And once this is complete, go ahead and plug in our wiring. Now this is an aftermarket one. If you recall, the other one, the plug was over here. This one, the plug is further away. But everything should still plug in. There we go. Move that boot side. Let me hook this up here, like so. There we go. Put our nut on. Alright, I just have to switch up my socket, so we're going to go, that's a 13mm here. Got a lip there. plastic lip. I think I did. Well, these are only 15 foot-pounds, so not very tight at all. I really didn't do that, but it looked like it hit that little plastic lip. I'm gonna back it out slightly. My mistake. Yeah, just hit that little plastic lip there. I'm gonna put our boot right back over. There you go. This has this lip. It's very hard to get this boot back on, which is a little interesting. Problem with that aftermarket. Now we're gonna get this bracket back on here. It lines up here, here, and these are also just about hand tight. Now, if you notice, if you look at the bracket, this has a wider hole, and this is also got a wider hole as well. But see where the screws kind of line up? Sorry, I was showing you off of it. See there, wide hole, wide hole. And that's meant so that it has some movement in play. So when we put that in, we start off with a smaller opening first. Line that up. And again, you want to double check for cross threading, but make sure you do not cross thread. Okay. I'll be honest, that's kind of annoying me, but oh well. What are you gonna do? Okay, so first I'm going to switch up my 50mm. And these are essentially going hand tight as well. Wrench for that last one. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna put the belt back on. As you can see, I do have my ratchet and my 15mm socket. I use a deeper socket because now you're looking at like new pulleys, new belts, especially. You know, the tensioner's been off for a bit, so I just want to make sure that I have a lot. The socket gives room to play when you're putting forward, so that's why I use the socket versus the ratchet. So before you do anything, of course, you want to just double check your belt. Make sure you check and make sure it is still lined up correctly. Make sure it's going around the pulley and you know, around the tensioner, around your AC, water pump, crank, everything. Make sure it's all going around correctly. So make sure you're doing that first. Now, switched here. We're gonna put our tensioner. Whoa, came off. Like that. You see I've pushed it down. I'm gonna slip the belt on. Release. Right, just like that. Takes a little bit of strength to do, as you saw, and a little bit of a struggle there, but we can get it on. It's just a matter of getting it lined up. Now, once done, before you do anything else, you want to check your belt, make sure it's still lined up. For example, so if you look, alternator is good, down to the pulley is good, tensioner is good. The water pump is off there. So you start the car, that could slip right off. Crank, looks good. AC looks good. we just got to fix the water pump. So we're just gonna see if I can do that with one hand. Show you guys. Put that on there. Right. Release the tension. Fix the belt. Here, actually, let's go back to the tripod. Now you can see that's lined up much better. That's where it should be right now. Alright, so now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. So we're going to grab our coolant reservoir. Now, if you look at the reservoir tank, you'll see there's kind of a notch at the bottom. Well, over down there, there's a kind of a little plug there, and that's what it notches onto. You want to make sure that when you're putting it in, it goes down and it hooks onto that little plastic notch. There we go. And bring around and over. Now, again, just as a reminder, if you were doing this without any strut tower bar there, which is I imagine 95% of the cars, then you won't have to do it. You just go straight down. It'll connect right in. You'll see the little plastic plug that's sticking out. And then you put your 2 screws. Of course, I do have that there. So one extra step. Nothing too big. So we're just going to put this now. Line this up here. Push it down. And then put these on. As a reminder, these are only like hand tight. Not more than that. Going to get our ratchet. Zoomed it in a bit for you guys. So again, these are very, very kind of thin bolts nuts. So again, you just go very, very. You don't go tight on them at all. Like literally hand tight, not more. You probably could even just do it by hand, but I'll just take the ratchet, give it a couple goes, and that's it. Now you don't even want to feel it get tight because those things can break your cross right over. Now we just put on our fuse box. Alright, and your last 2 steps now. One is to put on your negative terminal, so you just go ahead and go there. You may see a little bit of sparks, that's okay, it's just as it reconnects. So you go ahead and tighten that up. Pretty much go to hand tight, and then maybe another 1/4 turn after. If you ever want to be sure, after you tighten it, just give it a tug, a good firm tug, make sure it doesn't come off. Check your positive as well as you're there, and check if there's any corrosion, anything like that. Make sure that's all taken care of. Okay, and the last thing is we got to put our engine cover back on. Pretty straightforward. There is an opening right there. Right there. And that's where the back of it goes into. And then, as you know, with the front, so we're just going to reopen that. Hopefully you listen to my advice and put this cap back on. You don't want anything falling into the engine. And we're just going to line this up right here. Put that in. Drop that right down. There you go. Then put that back on. And you're done. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope this video has helped you out here today. Now let's go through some of the YouTube stuff, shall we? Don't forget to like and subscribe if this video has helped you out. And if you want to see my future videos, I try and put out one at least once a week. Make sure to hit notifications as well, just so you can get those videos. On the flip side to that, if you didn't like the video for whatever reason and you do dislike it, not a problem. Feel free to leave it in the comments of why you disliked it, whether it be something I did wrong, whether it's something you didn't like in the video. By all means, just let me know so I can keep making the best content possible. It's kind of the whole point of it, so make sure to do that. Speaking of the comments, if you have any questions, concerns, anything you want to add on, anything you see you can do better, anything that maybe you add on and it actually is worse, whatever it is, feel free to leave it in the comments. Nothing wrong with that. I always try and answer whenever I can. It may not be the same day, next day, whatever, but I try and answer all comments, so make sure to leave that as well. Once again, I want to thank you very, very much for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.